And through the drifts the snowy cliffs did send a dismal sheen, nor shapes of men nor beasts we ken, the ice was all between.
All right. Next, let's Daniel Gillen or Borea. My brother loves a Borea. Daniel Gillen did Crawworm, Demonic Attorney, Fungusaur, Library of Long, Lich, Savannah Lions, excuse me, Stone Rain, Wheel of Fortune, and White Knight. Okay, Crawworm. Gosh, I love Crawworm. I put four of. Just love you. Sometimes you just don't have enough Force of Natures and Gaia's Lieges in your deck. You just need Crawworms just to fill in the gaps because they're both rares, and Crawworms just so easy to get four copies of. Any 6/4 I call a Crawworm. God. Demonic Attorney. I had Demonic Attorney. Anti-cards are illegal. I've never played Demonic Attorney. Fungusaur. Amazing card with Prodigal Sorcerer. You could tap Prodigal Sorcerer, do 1 damage to any target. Fungusaur is a 2/2, so if it takes 1 damage, you get to put a 1/1 counter on it and it becomes a 3/3. And then you can just keep tapping your Prodigal Sorcerer and boosting up your Fungusaur until it's immense size. And keep in mind, getting like a card as big as Crawworm in the early days of Magic the Gathering was hard. Cards like Personal Incarnation, like 3 white, I've always said it was terrible. Force of Nature requires you to pay an upkeep of 4 green to keep it in place. So if you could just get Fungusaur to like a 6/6 or 7/7, it's just unstoppable. Library of Long. I played Library of Long. I think it's cool. If effect causes you to discard a card, you can put it on top of your library instead of in your graveyard. I think it's a cool effect. I wish I've actually had someone make me discard when I had a Library of Long. But for some reason, in the times that I did play Library of Long, I never faced against a discard deck. I love the idea of having no maximum hand size. Just cards that change the basic rules of Magic the Gathering makes Magic the Gathering special. Lich, I wish I pulled a Lich. I saw it in a card shop. And it was just too much money for me. I was just a little kid. I couldn't even ask my dad to buy me a Lich. I couldn't really understand what it did. But it's, once again, it's a card that changes the basic rules of Magic the Gathering. Instead of dying, you get to live instead. 4 black mana. The card design forces players to play mono black, and I love it because being a Lich, being dead is so black. It's very flavorful, making it last 4 of the same mana was just crazy. There's very few examples of that in Magic the Gathering. Savannah Lions. I adore Savannah Lions. I played White Weenie all the way from Revised to Kamigawa. And yeah, when Kamigawa era, when the Sakura Tribe Elder blocked Savannah Lions, this was when damage went on the stack. So your Savannah Lions would take 1 damage, and the Sakura Tribe Elder took 2 damage, and you could just sacrifice a Sakura Tribe Elder and get a free forest. It was so overpowered. With damages on the stack, Savannah Lions just wasn't that good. It would die to first strike. But the power and toughness ratio to the mana cost was just so good. Oh no, my phone's ringing. Whatever. It was just so good. It's the definition of White Weenie. 4 Savannah Lions, 4 White Knights is the opening for White Weenie for a very long time. Stone Rain, the original destroy target land spell. They tried playing Stone Rain in very different forms. Even like I said, 3 mana land destruction just became so powerful. But the original land destruction deck had 4 copies of Stone Rain. Wheel of Fortune, restricted, red 2, discard his or her hand and draw 7 cards. Draw 7 spells are just so rare in Magic the Gathering because they kept getting restricted, like Time Spiral and Time Twister and Wheel of Fortune were just so overpowered and undercosted. It could cause players to just play Dark Ritual, Dark Ritual, Dark Ritual, and combo out way before most decks ever should. Wheel of Fortune is really fun in just Grand Melee decks because some players, just lose all their cards in their hands. Some players get hit by land destruction and discard spells, And if you refill those players with 7 cards in their hands, they won't attack you for a very long time in multiplayer. So just a fascinating card, even in casual formats. Just playing 1x Wheel of Fortune in your deck. I was fortunate to have it. White Knight. I mentioned White Knight before. 2 keyword effects for 2 mana was just really overpowered back to Magic the Gathering. This card, this template, was the white weenie size. Moving on, Quentin Hoover. I love Quentin Hoover. Dark Pact, Earthbind, Feedback, Nettling Imp, Regeneration, Vesuvian Doppelganger, Wrath of God. Dark Pact, nothing to say about Dark Pact. It's an anti-card. Earthbind, I've gotten hit by Earthbind. 2 damage to a flying creature that loses flying. It was fun for a couple of weeks, but when there was more to play than just Revised, everyone in my family quit playing Earthbind. My dad, my brother quit Earthbinding me. Thank goodness. Nettling Imp. Nettling Imp, I just love the idea of forcing your opponent to attack with a creature. It changes the deck archetypes that you could have, like walls, like I said before, like Wall of Stone. Like you can't, Wall of Stone can't be killed by a creature. It's a 0/8 creature. So you can build your deck around Nettling Imps, and I really just, Norrit was one of my favorite arts of all time, all Magic cards, and Nettling Imp is the little brother of Norrit, so I like Nettling Imp. Regeneration. I like how cards like Spirit Link and like Life Link, like Regeneration, is the keyword itself. I love this idea in Magic the Gathering, this originality of ideas, this test of concepts of cards with a keyword doing a keyword. Vesuvian Doppelganger. I printed out the rules for Vesuvian Doppelganger. It was about 3 or 4 pages. I might do a Magic Content about Vesuvian Doppelganger, but it's a clone that changes. And I could spend an hour on Vesuvian Doppelganger. Oh god, Wrath of God. Card so powerful, people just call it Wrath. I'll Wrath your board. I mean, it could be Akroma's Vengeance, and it doesn't have Wrath in the wording. It could be an Apocalypse, it could be Yakel Hops. And people say, I'll Wrath you. It's the original card. Quentin Hoover is just so cool. He's so cool. Did he do Quirion Dryad? I just love the name for Quentin Hoover. It just rolls off the tongue. Next is Faye Jones. Stasis. That's it. We searched for him. That's just a 1-card wonder. I've built a Stasis deck. It's funny with like Leviathan or Polar Kraken, where you're just being mean to your mana anyway. And Stasis was like the first hard lock. Before Magic the Gathering, there was like a bunch of soft locks. Soft lock, as I mean, like, you know, making your opponent's cards like a Gloom. You know, your spells cost 3 more, so you can't cast any spells. Well, there's ways around the soft lock. You just need, 3 more mana, and you'll get out of the Gloom, and you can play Magic the Gathering again. Cards like Stasis with like Icy Manipulator kind of cards that just keep tapping your opponent down can make your opponent like physically can't play the game. Like, do the math. You could be sitting here in this chair for hours, and you still wouldn't be able to play a game of Magic the Gathering. So the word hard lock comes from Stasis. It's not just a series of soft locks. It's you cannot physically play the game. Anson Maddox. I love Anson Maddox. Animate Dead, Creature Bond, Cyclopean Tomb, Death Grip, Disintegrate Elvish Archers, False Orders, Flight, Guardian Angel, Holy Strength, Hurling Minotaur, Invisibility, Iron Claw Orcs, Ivory Cup, Jade Monolith, Life Tap, Living Artifact, Living Wall, Lenor Elves, Lure, Orcish Artillery, Paralyze, Plague Rats, Singer Vampire, Shinuen Dryads, Siren's Call, Throne of Bone, Two-Headed Giant of Forius, Wall of Bone, Wall of Brabbles. Goodness God. Let's go through them quickly. Animate Dead. Probably the best animate spell ever. You get -1/-0, and you reanimate a creature, And this is the reanimate card for reanimation decks. All the ones that came after this are just worse. It's 3 mana for necromancy, or 4 mana for just reanimate target card in your graveyard. Like an Ashen Powder. 4 mana for reanimation spell is just too much. 2 mana for a reanimation spell, you could just make your opponent concede turn 2. It's like turn 1, you cast a 1 mana, target player discards a card, you could target yourself. Turn 2, animate dead, wins the whole freaking game. With a concede. Creature Bond. My brother plays Creature Bond. I don't understand. This isn't that great. Really, it's not. Cyclopean Tomb. Getting ahead of myself here. I never had Cyclopean Tomb. Do not understand the card. Pretty art. I'm sorry, there's just some cards I just don't have expertise in, I can't comment on. Death Grip. This card is too powerful. If you experiment with this, like just put like one of this in your deck with magical hack-like cards, like Sleight of Mind. You could just change this to whatever color your opponent's playing and make them concede the game. I've tried this like 1994, made my brother concede the game by Sleight of Mind's magical hack deck. And when it works, like, 20% of the time, it works 100% of the time. It forces a concession. Completely forces a concession. And players don't play with magical hack decks anymore. Or Sleight of Mind decks anymore. And I think they kind of should. Just a remarkable way of making an opponent concede the game. But then again, it's just like a couple of weeks of fun. This isn't something like you would take, to a tournament and play. Because it's just like a really risky endeavor. You would have to force your opponent to play monocolored decks. A lot of players just played monocolored decks back in the day because it was just hard getting dual lands, and if you played more than one color, you could get color screwed. It was just a thing that happened. Disintegrate. Disintegrate is like Fireball, the original channel Fireball, except you could use Disintegrate instead, and it would remove from the game. That was the old word for exile. You could play a burn deck with Mana Flare to double all your mana, and then you could throw in like 4 copies of Fireball, 4 copies of Disintegrate, and you could just Fireball your opponent for 8 or Disintegrate your opponent for 8 and kill them that way. Or 10 or 12. Just a remarkable card. Don't see it that often. Just don't. Elvish Archers. First Strike. Elvish Archers Rancor was my go-to for months. If you cast Rancor on this, it gets +2/+0 trample. It's 4/1 First Strike trample. What's going to beat this? Whose idea was it to put First Strike on a green card? Like, it's color shifted, and once again, they have it as a rare. So you would pull Timberwolves and Elvish Archers as your rare. How frustrating would this be if you're expecting like really cool cards like a Seer Angel or a Shivan Dragon, and your rare is Elvish Archers instead? I don't care. I played this in Green Weenie. I love it. False Orders. I wish I could comment on all False Orders. I think I've had a False Orders played against me once, just to be cool, but it's only in unlimited kind of cards. I just can't say about it. Flight. It's the improved version of Jump. Jump was so terrible. It would just give a creature flying until end of turn, and they gave Flight. And once again, this kind of cute game design, like I said, with Thicket, Basilisk, and Cockatrice, is, yeah, so sure, Jump is only 1 turn, but that Jump, you could cast it on a 20/20 creature and your opponent's automatically dead. Who would you expect to jump? It's a surprise. The surprise, the bluffing aspect of Jump is like, this might be the turn you could die. Versus Flight's, permanent effect. Being, looks like it's clearly a better card, doesn't it? Guardian Angel. Terrible, terrible card. Just like Healing Salve was unplayable, Guardian Angel's unplayable. Holy Strength. It's just cool, like playing an Ornithopter, like turn 1 Ornithopter, Holy Strength, and then like turn 2 Unholy Strength, Unholy Strength. People diss on enchant creatures because what happens is you can just cast a 2-mana Terror and it destroys any creature, like non-artifact, non-black creature, or 1 mana for Swords of Plowshares. So it's high risk playing enchant creatures, or basically these are local enchantments, these are auras. The early days it was enchant creature. But, sometimes you just play against mono green, and if you play mono green, you can just load up your Ornithopter with, 4 Unholy Strengths, 4 Holy Strengths, And suddenly your Ornithopter is a giant monster and your opponent doesn't have the kill spell. Your opponent just dies. Your Ornithopter flies over and it wins. Holy Strength on a White Knight makes a 3/5 first strike. What kind of creature could take 3/5 first strike down? Like nothing. Your opponent can double block and 3/5 first strike will just take one of the two creatures down. The second creature can't take down 3/5 first strike. Crazy, crazy. Hurtling Minotaur. I don't know. I just love Hurtling Minotaur. I love these, places of continents and countries and lands and Magic the Gathering that they just print on cards without having the books to describe these cards. And being the same size as the same mana cost as Grey Ogre, being a 2/2 for 3, having a 2/3 for 3 makes it's like a superior Grey Ogre. I actually played with Hurtling Minotaur. We actually thought it was a great card. Invisibility. I had never had invisibility. Makes a creature basically unblockable. I'm sure it would have been a very powerful card if it actually wasn't revised. Ironclaw Oryx, superb. This was the very first card for Sly, made by Paul Sly. Paul Sly invented the very first mana curve in Magic the Gathering. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it basically means you have, some 1 mana cost creatures, a lot of 2 mana cost creatures, fewer 3 casting cost creatures, maybe 4 casting cost creatures, 0 to 4 X spells like Fireball or Disintegrate. And that was Paul Sly's deck, and Paul Sly took Ironclaw Oryx to win because other players were playing, 3 mana Grey Ogres, and if you play a 2 mana Ironclaw Oryx, well, you get 2 damage in before it trades with Grey Ogre, and then Lightning Bolts just finish your opponent off. Just very efficient, and the handicap just didn't matter. Just attack, attack, attack. Ivory Cup. The entire cycle's dumb. Played in Chandelier doesn't work. Jade Monolith. I think I put it in the deck and like a one of, because I think I've only ever had one of Jade Monoliths. I don't think I've ever drawn it in the games I have. And then I thought about it and I just didn't play with it with it anymore. I tried to play test it. I just didn't draw my one Jade Monolith. I can't say anything about it. I'm sorry. Life Tap. Once again, a magical hackable spell. This is something in Chandelier that people would play against you. But there's Karma and deals damage. Equals number of swamps your opponent controls. And getting your opponent from 20 to 0 is more important than getting yourself from 20 to 40. So I'll never play with this card. Living Artifact, just love Living Artifact. Gives the fact you could just sacrifice and put +0/+X counters in a creature. This is just like a Fallen Empires level card, isn't it? I thought it was really cute. It didn't win me any games, so I just stopped playing with it. Living Artifact, so powerful. If you had the Arborea that I mentioned earlier, Arborea, if you just do nothing, then nothing happens, bad happens to you. If you had like a Living Artifact in play, you could just slowly gain all the life you had. And if you had multiple Living Artifacts, say you had 4 Living Artifacts and you took 10 damage, that's actually 40 Vitality counters divided amongst like your 4 Living Artifacts. And then you'd gain 40 life back if you just had Arborea and you just waited 10 turns, your opponent can't attack you. And really impressed me. Now it doesn't seem like such a powerful card. Living Wall really impresses me. Just 1 colorless regenerate Living Wall. You don't need a colored mana. Like the Dredge Skeletons, you need a black to regenerate. The fact that it's a colorless mana makes this better than Dredge Skeletons. I actually played Living. Can we stare at the picture? This picture is just, I don't know, it's wonderful. It amazes me. It's just so pretty. I have no idea. It just fascinates me. It's kind of like, someone who misses the smell of cigarette smoke, because that's what their grandfather smelled like, and they miss being with their grandfather. This phantasmagoria, this ugly, gruesome image, just, I don't know, for some reason it's pretty to me. It's fascinating. Llanowar Elves, the go-to character. They eventually printed Fin-Horned Elves in Ice Age. So you can put up to 8 of them in your deck. I love this eye patch. I don't like any of the new kind of Llanowar Elves sort of cards. This I don't know, this eye patch, this hair. It's I don't know. Once again, this gruesome level of love. I love the ugliness. I'm such a fan of Ansomatics. Lure. I like this. I never actually looked at the Lure very carefully. Is that like a dragon inside an apple? I may have not like stared at this image until now. Lure with Thicket Basilisk. Um, Destroy one target player. It doesn't matter how much mana it costs for Thicket Basilisk and Lure. It was just so fun killing people like that. Orcish Artillery. I played the Orcish Artillery. Taking 3 damage just doesn't feel that bad. If you just clear whatever your opponent draws every single turn, if you just draws a Grey Ogre or something, and Orcish Artillery just destroys your opponent's Grey Ogre, then it's like your opponent never draws any cards. Sort of like the early sort of idea of Magic that your life is as a resource and you should use your life as a resource with Orcish Artillery. It doesn't seem that terrible these days. But now it is. Paralyze. I adore Paralyze. I played Paralyze for 10 years. I've experimented with this extensively in Chandelar. I think Paralyze is underplayed. It's 1 black mana being half as much as 2 mana is so important when you need mana advantage. And if you're just racing against your opponent should never pay 4 mana to untap a creature. Unless it's like a Psychotog deck and then all they have in their deck is a bunch of counters and upheavals and Psychotogs. Then Paralyze is a terrible idea and you should have a Destroy Target Creature spell deck, Destroy Target Creature spell instead. Other than that, I've Paralyzed a Rogue Elephant turn 1. Rogue Elephant needs to sacrifice a forest and it's 1 green. So your opponent's at 0 lands and the Rogue Elephant gets paralyzed. And it's just won that game. It's such an amazing card. I don't see why people hate it. I guess you could call it a pet card of mine. Plague Rats. There's better cards than Plague Rats. People said they wish you could have more than 4 Plague Rats in your deck. In Alpha, you actually could have more than 4 for a single 1 card in your deck. That rule didn't come out until maybe Beta or Limited or Revised. That it was a 4 of. But in Alpha, I've heard people have played more than 4 of Plague Rats in a deck, and the card's tremendous. And that's actually got the modern Relentless Rats deck going, was this Plague Rats. Now it's complete crap. It's worse than Grey Ogre, because if you only have 4 in your deck, how many are going to have in play? Maybe 2, and then they're Grey Ogres? And then what if you attack with 2 of your 2/2 Plague Rats, and he blocks with a 2/2 and a 1/1? Then the 2/2s trade, and then you have a 2/2 with 1 damage that turns into a 1/1, and then the 1/1 dies, so it makes it worse than Grey Ogre. Synchro Vampire. Love Synchro Vampire. 4 for flying for 5 was absolutely fine back in the day. And I've uncommonly seen it as a 5/5 creature. And the thing is, your opponent will actually, if he has like a chump blocker, like a 1/1 flyer, your opponent won't block with a 1/1 flyer because then you'll start taking 5 damage, and it could actually be the exact same clock against your opponent if the only creature he has in his deck is a 1/1 flying versus just taking 4 damage every single turn. And it confuses your opponent, like, should I block the second time? Should I block the third time it attacks? I like that. Just licking blood. This blood, literal bloodlust. Like, literally it wants to lick blood. It's so weird. I think these, like, in the card Bloodlust, someone's actually licking blood because it was a foreigner, and the foreigner just looked up lust in the dictionary and looked up blood in the dictionary and didn't understand that bloodlust meant different than the words apart. Yeah, Shannon and Dryads. What a sexy girl. I love it when they print cards like this. Like, this is kind of like X-rated, like she's not wearing any clothes, but she's a tree. Force. I wish there was more land welcome Magic the Gathering. Siren's Call. I like Siren's Call and forcing your opponent to not attack. Like a Siren's Call plus a moat, or a Teferi's moat. And then it just destroys all of your opponent's creatures. Other than that, the card's crap. Throne of Bone. It's Probably bad even in Chandelure. Two-headed giant of Forius. Never had the pleasure of having this card. I started with revised. Cool art. Wall of Bone, Wall of Brambles. I love this Wall of Bone. Like, I think they just ran out of words to put after Wall of. I think they did. I think that's why the Wall ofs died out. I've played with Wall of Brambles, like a one of. There's just not that many cards in Magic the Gathering, period. So sometimes you're just stuck with walls. Friends, check out humblebundle.com. You get hundreds of dollars of games for just $12 a month. It goes in your Steam account and it stays there forever. So, what I want you to do is I want you to join Humble Monthly with this code YM2B9L and support Wall of Ice Cream on his endeavors. And there will be more videos, I promise. We just need more than 0. Go for it. Do it.